Hey guys, what's up? Kuro here from Kimono Dungeon Fursuits. Thank you so much for returning to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. In this week's video, I want to talk about gateways into the furry fandom that we might have experienced as children or early in our lives that later translated into our love of anthropomorphized animals. So it's no secret, there is a ton of media that is based around what we would like to call furries or anthropomorphized animals. You could see it from everyday items like advertising, children's books, literature in general, card games, tabletop games, movies, video games, you name it, the list could go on and on. And we are exposed to this media from a very young age, and many of us, if you're like me, really gravitated and latched onto it, and before we knew it, it would later shape our interest within the furry fandom. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the typical gateways that might have led you into the furry fandom or might lead someone into the furry fandom in the future. It really is no surprise that some of these characters or games or whatever it might be really resonated with a lot of us that did find the fandom and found interest in it. So first up, I want to talk about video games. Now, there are thousands of games out there, if not hundreds of thousands. I don't know the statistic on how many games there really are, but it's no surprise that video games with anthropomorphic characters tend to have a high furry interest, or those that played the games later on in life would become furries. Take, for example, Pokémon. I mean, there are literally hundreds of Pokémon. You are bound to resonate and like at least one of them. Personally, I love Espeon. Espeon and Squirtle are my two favorite Pokémon. While these aren't the exact definition of an anthropomorphized animal, it really is an opening gateway to finding interest in the fandom. There are tons of Pokemon fursuits that come up, and if a person was to just Google Pokemon, you are almost guaranteed to find some form of furry art of Pokemon. Other games that kind of act as a gateway are the Sonic video game series. Though some Sonic fans may argue that he is not Furry Bait or furry adjacent, he's a walking, talking hedgehog. And it is pretty furry. Neopets, if you were like me and grew up with the internet in the early 2000s, that was another game with a huge furry following, and that was one of the first places I found out about furries. Animal Crossing is another video game. You literally exist in a world with walking, talking animals. Other games include Spyro, Star Fox, and Sly Cooper, just to name a few of the older and more popular established games. There are tons of new ones now that I'll probably find and put up on the screen because I can't think of them right now. But let's move on to the next section, which is movies with anthropomorphized characters, or basically all of Disney. Let's be real, it's no secret that Disney has a huge arsenal of anthropomorphic movies, TV shows, games, merchandise. Though Mickey Mouse is not a furry, he is an anthropomorphized mouse. There are literally probably too many to list movie-wise. If you are a furry, you have at least seen Lion King at least once. You probably enjoyed How to Train Your Dragon, the Sing movies, and so on. And let's be real here. Bad Guys, Alpha and Omega, and Zootopia were basically Furry Bait movies. They were made with the intention to attract the interest of furries. They, by every definition, are furry movies. We could even look at shows and a lot of animes that have anthropomorphized animals or creatures within the series. Pokemon again, My Little Pony is another one. The Sonic cartoons. There are just so many. We could even argue Scooby-Doo was kind of furry because Scooby talked and did things that were not something a normal dog could do. And the next section I want to talk about is mascots and everyday items, and as well as advertising. We see this a lot with things geared towards children, especially cereal companies will do this. Take Tony the Tiger or the toucan from the Fruit Loops box. All anthropomorphized creatures and animals used to attract kids and kind of get them to want the cereal that they're trying to sell. You could even argue the Trix Rabbit is one, the Energizer Bunny, even the Pillsbury Doughboy in a weird way, because though he's not a person or an animal, he's a anthropomorphized lump of bread. I think that's what he is. He's dough. So there's a lot of things in marketing that use furry-related things. We could even look back at the Super Bowl that happened, last year, against the Rams and the Bengals? Mascots in general, and maybe you even went to your high school and your high school had a mascot that someone could wear. Maybe you even were the school's mascot and that's what first got you into the furry fandom. The next section is books, and this could be manga or written literature. We all know or have at least at one point heard of the Animorphs series. There's the Warrior Cat series, which is pretty much the most well-known furry-esque books, literally talking cats that have their whole clans and systems and whatever it is. I didn't read the books, but my brother did, and I knew about them very well. There's also the Guardians of Ga'Hoole book series that was very furry and anthropomorphic based, and so on. I'm sure there's hundreds of books out there that have some furry element to them. Other things that might be potential gateways to finding the furry fandom and becoming interested in it are Halloween costumes, cosplay, dress up in general, and dino masks. Cosplay is not necessarily furry, but it's within the same realm and sphere. It is fandom based, and a lot of costumers dress up as their favorite characters from movies, video games, shows, and we all know that all of those have lots of furry elements to them. So if someone wanted to dress as a Pokémon, they would eventually find furries through learning to make a fursuit. If you wanted to cosplay as My Neighbor Totoro, that is basically a fursuit. If you wanted to cosplay as one of the cats from Monster Hunter, that is a fursuit. So there are so many gateways and avenues when it comes to costuming that could really cross over into the furry fandom. A lot of building techniques that are used in making fursuits are also used in making cosplays. So if you are a cosplayer, you definitely know about the furry fandom, and you have probably at least used a tutorial or two before from a furry. Take my ear making tutorial, for example. Lots of anime characters and video game characters have animal ears, and that is a furry-based tutorial, but used in a way for cosplay. Dino masks are another interesting thing. We're seeing a huge surge of younger members of the fandom join, and dino masks have been a very easy item to buy for around like $20 or a little more or less, and are often young people's first ever fursuit. The younger you are, the less money you have and the less resources you might have to either build or buy a fursuit. So dino masks offer a cheap, fun, and easy way for a young child to join the fandom. They can paint their own mask, add a strip of fur or two for a hood, add ears, add feathers, whatever they may like, and they can do it all themselves while having a full mask with a moving jaw and so on, and it makes it much more accessible, and the child might develop a strong interest in the fandom that will later flourish into full-blown participation in the furry fandom, where they may build a fursuit or get one later on down the road. Really, we can argue that any and all children's media is anthropomorphized. Lots of books are, television, media, whatever it may be. And the reason this is so prevalent is because animals can be neutral. They don't have to have an agenda. Race, sexuality, orientation, evilness, goodness, whatever your moral compass might be. And this is especially good for the author if they don't want to take a side or be seen as exclusionary. They'll use animals in movies, books, games, and shows, and it's an easy way to stay neutral and a good way to go about this. Or they can use this to not segregate any groups of people that they might want to market to or reach out to. If you use a tiger instead of a person, you won't exclude one group. If you used a tiger, you wouldn't accidentally exclude members of any minority races because the tiger has no race. Everyone would feel included. So On the flip side, they can also be a fun and easy way to segue kids into tough topics like gender identity, learning right and wrong, and other important life lessons. Also, when it boils down to it, kids just love cute, fluffy, and sometimes scaly animals. So it's no surprise that some grow up and carry on that love of anthropomorphic animals into their adult lives. Animals, of course, are easier to relate to for everyone, thus increasing the audience and popularity for the author and creator. So, what was your segue into the furry fandom? Did you first find it through video games? Did you find it through costuming? Did you find it through something completely unrelated from any of the media that I've talked about here in this video? Share it in the comments below of how you found the fandom, or how you found out about it if you're not a furry watching this video. And as always, if you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it does really help out my channel and it lets me know that the content I'm making is enjoyed by all of you. But that is all for this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next week in the next video. As always, I'm Kuro from Kimono Dungeon Fursuits. Bye for now.